Hey guys, I'm going to talk to you guys today about Kaalia the Vast Commander deck. Um, she's my second commander, though not my second choice. I just happened to get into commander and I was looking for a good commander. Found her. She's so hard to obtain. She's gone up in price significantly since I got her. She's almost doubled what I got her for. If you can get a hold of her, she's great. She's a 2/2 flyer. Whenever she attacks, you put an angel, demon, or dragon from your hand on the battlefield. That's pretty broken. Literally, when people see that I have this deck, or I tell them I have this deck, they literally go, "Oh, you're that guy." So that must say something good about the deck, right? Well, since we're going to be dropping angel, demons, and dragons every time she attacks, we gotta have a lot of angel, demons, and dragons. So we'll hop right into the creatures here. If I can grab the pile, yep, that's it. First creature though is my only creature that's not a demon, dragon, or angel, and that's Mirror Entity. Now this guy, he's a 1/1 shapeshifter with X. All your creatures become XX, and all creature types till the turn. I have him in here for specific reasons. The first one is my friend Patrick runs a Sliver Commander deck, so I need to use his stuff against him. But he's also really good with my Planeswalker Sarkhan the Mad here, because he lets me deal damage to my opponent equal to all my dragons' power added up. All my dragons deal damage to their power to a player, which is pretty broken. Along with Utvar Hellkite that's in here, when a dragon I control attacks, I get another 6/6 flying dragon on the battlefield. Not attacking, but I get the tokens. So turning all my dudes into dragons, turning them all into slivers is really good. Next we have all the angels. We have, first of all, Platinum Angel. She says you can't lose and your opponents can't win. Pretty self-explanatory. Next we have Iona, Shield of Amira. She says whenever she enters the battlefield, you choose a color and your opponent can't cast spells of that color. So if you're going against a monocolor EDH deck, there goes their entire deck, except for artifacts. So that's pretty good. Against a dual color, it cuts out most of their cards. 3-color, not so much, but it does help, especially if you're going against something that's running any kind of blue. Choosing blue on her is pretty good. Next we have Chancellor of the Annex. Whenever you can reveal her from your opening hand. If you do, your opponent's first spell gets countered unless they pay 1, and when she's on the battlefield, all their spells get countered unless they pay 1. So she's a good way to stall, make your opponent spend more mana, set them back a turn, stuff like that. Next we have Restoration Angel. When she comes in, she exiles a non-angel creature and then returns to the battlefield immediately. So all my demons and dragons that have enter the battlefield effects, I get to reiterate those again. Avacyn Angel Hope, she's the powerhouse. 8/8 flying vigilance, all my things are indestructible. Really great because some of the planeswalkers I have board wipe abilities and I want mine to stay while my opponents die. Next we have Angelic Arbiter. Opponents who attack this turn attack, can't cast spells, and opponents who cast spells can't attack. It makes them decide what they want to do and not let them do both. Most of the time, since we're going aggro, they're going to skip their combat and not swing at us and just focus on playing spells, which is good for us. Sublime Archangel. All my creatures have Exalted. This is really good when you just get Kaalia going. It's also good if and when you lose Kaalia, because there are cards in here that would benefit severely from getting a huge boost in power from all your creatures, giving them +1/+1. Minvala, Keeper of Silence. Activated abilities of creatures your opponent's control can't be activated. Stops combo decks, stops sliver decks. Good angel to have. Rhea Dawnbringer. Beginning of my upkeep, I reanimate one of my creatures from my graveyard. It's really good if I get milled or I have to discard a card from an opponent's effect and I discard one of my really good angels, demons, or dragons, I can get her back. Or if they're destroyed, I get to bring them back next upkeep. Anyway, Angel of Serenity, I get to exile 3 creatures from graveyards or the battlefield, any combination, Really good for getting rid of blockers, pesky combo creatures, or you can exile your own creatures out of your graveyard. Then when she dies, bring them back to your hand and drop them again with Kaalia. Next we have Archangel Athun. Flying lifelink whenever I gain life, I put a 1/1 counter on each of my creatures. This just makes my army exponentially stronger every time I swing. Archangel of Strife. When she enters the battlefield, each player chooses War or Peace. War gives all our creatures +3/+0. Peace gives your creatures +0/+3. I think we know which one we'll be picking most of the time. Next is Angelic Skirmisher. During each combat, yours and your opponent's, you choose First Strike, Vigilance, or Lifelink, and your creatures gain that ability. So during your turn you choose Vigilance, so you have blockers, and then during your turn you choose First Strike or Lifelink, depending on whether you rather gain life or kill their dudes without taking any damage to your own. Aurelia the War Leader. When she attacks for the first time each turn, untap all your creatures, there's another battle phase. Flying Vigilance Haste. We don't really want to sneak her in with Kaalia. If you can drop her with a mana cost, you want to drop her. That way you get her out, get a dude out with Kaalia, untap, get another dude out with Kaalia. Or you just drop her with Kaalia and that's the end of your turn. So you want to drop her out as is, but if you don't have the mana or you have nothing else, dropping her out with Kaalia is the best thing because your opponent might have counters, and putting her in with Kaalia skips that counter. Gisela Blade of Gold Knight. All damage done to opponents and permanents they control is doubled. All damage done to you and permanents you control is cut in half. So if you're in a multiplayer, and this is the funny part, your opponents deal double damage to each other. So it's a good way to play dirty politics, and she wins the game every time because suddenly the 18 damage that you're swinging gets doubled to 36. Bassandra the Battle Seraph. Players can't cast spells during combat. Kaalia the Vast's ability isn't a spell, so we get to sneak in these creatures while your opponent has no way to respond to anything during combat. They can't flash in blockers, they can't use destroy spells, they can't manipulate stats in any way during combat, even after damage is dealt, because after damage then there's the end of combat phase. They have to wait till main phase 2. Which, I mean, technically that's all formalities anyway. They could just say, okay, main phase 2 started, do it anyway. But Razzia Boros Archangel, 6/3 Flying Vigilance Haste, and tap to take the 3 damage that would be dealt to a creature you control and deal it to another one. You can bounce this back on their creatures, or redirect it to one of your creatures that won't die from taking 3. This is a great way to protect Kaalia, because she only has 2 toughness. Teriel Reckoner of Souls, Flying Vigilance 4/7. Tap to get a creature from your opponent's graveyard at random on the battlefield. This is great for stealing slivers and for stealing very valuable cards in Reanimator. They're purposely putting them in the graveyard and you get to steal them. You pretty much use their own deck against them. Next we have Desecration Demon, 6/6 flying. We definitely want to sneak him in with Kaalia the Vast because it skips that first opportunity to sack a creature and tap him with his ability. So you definitely want to sneak him in with Kaalia, but he's relatively cheap too, so if you maybe don't have enough mana to recast Kaalia because she got killed, but you have 4 to dump a Desecration Demon out, it's better than nothing. Next we have Nephrox, Overlord of Grixis, 5/5 Exalted Flying. Whenever he attacks alone, they sack a creature. He's a great subject for Sublime Archangel to swing with, because then you have like a 13/13 in the air swinging at them, and they have to sack a dude. Bloodgift Demon. Beginning of your upkeep, target player draws a card and loses a life. Most of the time that's going to be you, but if pinging away at your opponent is going to win you the game, sometimes it's better to let them draw a card and lose a life. I've actually killed somebody with this before, because I only got them down to 1 life, and then at my upkeep I made them draw a card, lose a life. And they told me that they had a fog waiting for my next combat, but I killed them with Bloodgift Demon anyway. Runescarred Demon, he's a tutor on a stick, he's a 6/6 flyer, and he lets you search for one of your gracious legendary creatures that win you the game. Lord of the Void, 7/7 flying. Whenever you deal combat damage to a player, you exile the top 7 cards of their library and you get a creature card from them. This is really mean in EDH because not only are you getting 7, get rid of the 7 things, but in EDH it's all about manipulating the top of your deck to get the cards that you want. So exiling those top 7 cards after somebody comboed something up there is devastating to their play, and you get one of their creatures. You have Apparent Overlord. He's a 6/6. Whenever he enters the battlefield, you get X1/1 flying Harpy tokens equal to your devotion to black. Now, devotion, for those people that don't know it, are these number of black mana symbols in the mana cost of your permanents. Not anywhere else in the card, only in the mana cost up here. And that's black devotion. Red devotion is red mana costs. So you get a lot of Harpy tokens out of him. Downside, but an upside in some cases, but we'll talk about later. At the beginning of your upkeep, you have to sack a creature. Worst case scenario, you sack a Harpy token. Next we have Reaper from the Abyss. He has a morbid effect. At the beginning of each end step, yours and yours opponent, if something died this turn, destroy another non-demon creature. This could be bad for us because we could blow up all our opponent's creatures and only have our angels and dragons to blow up. That's another reason I have Mirror Entity in here, to make all my creatures all creature types, therefore technically being demons and not being able to be targeted by his effect should he come back to bite me. Next we have Rakdos, Lord of Riots. 6/6 flying trample. He is a one you're going to want to sneak in with Kaalia. He says you can't cast him unless somebody took damage this turn, so you usually see him get played during a main phase 2 after a combat. And he doesn't have haste, so he's always going to be on that main phase 2. With Kaalia though, you're not casting him and you're essentially giving him haste. Then all creature spells you cast this turn cost 1 less for each damage your opponent take, which is like 10 or 14 or 20, however much it is at this point. So all these ginormous cost creatures with these huge colorless mana costs in front of them are erased. All you have to do is pay the color. Next we have another one you definitely want to sneak in with Kaalia, and that's Master of Cruelties. He says he can only attack alone, but when you attack with Kaalia and then put him down, your attackers have already been declared, so he gets around that loophole. He also says whenever he attacks and isn't blocked, and that's very particular because normally we would ignore this when he attacks thing because attackers have already been declared, but it says and isn't blocked. That second check of declare blockers follows through that whenever he attacks. Whenever he attacks and isn't blocked, their life total becomes 1. Now there's a great combo with him and Kaalia. Put them down, maybe they don't have anything to block with, you've been destroying their creatures with the kill spells that we have. Their life total goes to 1. Master of Cruelties doesn't deal damage this turn if their life total goes to 1, but Kaalia gets 2 more in, and that's game. Now we're on to the dragons. We have Balefire Dragon. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player, he deals that much damage to each creature they control. So he's base 6. If you just get 6 in, that's 6 to each of their creatures. That's most of the time a board wipe, unless they have indestructibles or really high toughness creatures. He's really great with Archangel Athun because the more 1/1 counters he gets on him, the more powerful your board wipes get with him. Next we have Nullspine Dragon. When he enters the battlefield, you may discard your card and draw cards equal to the damage dealt to opponents this turn. He's one you don't want to sneak in with Kaalia unless you have a double battle phase set up with either Aurelia or this next dragon I'm about to show you, because you swing first, deal about 14 damage probably, then second main you put him down with Kaalia, discard your hand, draw 14 cards, keep the best 7 and go on your day. Most of the time you're going to play him during your second main phase though. He's a 7-drop, and so this makes a perfect scenario. Hellkite Charger, flying haste. You can pay 7 to untap all your creatures and have another battle phase whenever he attacks. So You want to play him and swing, but if you sneak him in with Kaalia, you don't get to do it. You have to have a lot of mana to do this. So I usually sneak him in with Kaalia, then the next turn, swing and spend my 7 to have another combat phase, instead of paying the 7 to put down Null Spine Dragon, and use his ability to get all those cards in my hand. Next we have Bogarden Hellkite. When he enters the battlefield, he deals 5 damage how you want to players or creatures. So 3 to a creature, 2 to their face, 5 straight to their face, what have you. Great, just lava axe. Utvara Hellkite that I told you about. When a dragon I control attacks, I get a 6/6 flying dragon on the battlefield. Exponential growth of dragons. Two last dragons here. The only black one, Skithiryx the Blight Dragon, 4/4 flying infect. And he's really mean because he has black to give himself haste and 2 black to regenerate him. So he's really hard to get rid of, really fast, and it's infect in EDH, the fastest way to kill someone. People aren't going to like him, and he's going to be hard to get rid of. Last of the dragons is Steel Hellkite. He's a 5/5 flying with a little ability to pump him up, but I don't use that at all. I use his second ability, which is X. Destroy each non-land permanent your opponent controls with mana cost X if they've been dealt damage by Steel Hellkite this turn. So sneak him in with Kaalia, and then choose a number, whatever number of mana cost creatures you want to get rid of. You want to get rid of all their 2-drop mana nerds, you pay 2 mana, blow them all up. Whatever their mana cost of their commander is, pay it, blow it up. If they have tokens, you can choose 0, blow it up. But you can only use this once per turn, even if you deal damage twice with him, which is sad, but fair. Next, we're going to go on to the other permanents I have, starting with the Planeswalkers. We have Sarkon the Mad that I told you about. His neg4 is all my dragons deal damage equal to their power to a player, which is great, because I'm going to be tearing out dragons with Utvara Hellkite and turning all my other creatures into dragons with Mirror Entity. So that's really powerful. The sad thing, he starts at 7 and he only has neg abilities. So you have to be really careful with him. His 0 is reveal the top card of your library, put it in your hand, and then deal damage to him equal to its mana cost. I usually only do that after I do my neg 4 unless I'm really, really desperate for a good card. His neg 2 is target creature's controller sacks it, which is really good because you get to target a creature. Instead of a player choosing to sack a certain creature, you get to choose a creature, sack it, they put a 5/5 flying dragon on the battlefield. That doesn't sound like a good thing to give your opponent, but in our deck, a 5/5 flying dragon isn't that devastating towards us, and it could be way better than some kind of combo piece they have going off. And it's also good if they put a pacifism or some kind of other spell that turns your good creatures into a bad creature, like a 0/1 insect, or Curse of the Swine turn into a 2/2 pig. I'd rather have a 5/5 flying dragon than a 2/2 pig, so he's good for that. Next we have 2 Elspeths. Elspeth Tyrell, +2 to gain life for each creature you control, really good in our deck. Neg 2 to put 3 soldiers on the battlefield. We can always have more blockers and always have more exalted triggers for Sublime Archangel. And lastly, destroy all permanents except for lands and tokens. This would sound bad for our deck, but if we can get indestructible on the field with Avacyn or other spells, we don't have to worry about this board wipe. Same goes for Elspeth Sun Champion. She has +1 to get 3 soldier tokens. Neg 3 to destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater. Sounds bad for our deck. Once again, indestructible saves the day. And lastly, neg 7, +2 all your creatures get +2/+2 in flying. Only creatures without flying we have are Mirror Entity and Master of Cruelty, so we don't really care about the flying, but +2/+2 to all our creatures helps a ton. On to the artifacts, we have to have Soul Ring to drop those big creatures should Kaalia go away. 1 drop to tap to add 2 colors to Manacle. Now, this is the win card of the entire deck. This is Strionic Resonator. It costs 2 to put down, 2 and tap to activate its ability. You copy a triggered ability you control. That is completely broken in this deck. Kaalia's ability is a triggered ability. All my enter the battlefield, attack triggers, all upkeep triggers, those are all triggered abilities. And I get to double those effects. Some really good examples I use for those is Lord of the Void's effect. When he deals combat damage, you exile top 7 and I get a creature. That means I get to exile the top 14 of their deck and get 2 creatures. Archangel of Thune, whenever I gain life, I put a 1/1 counter on each creature I control. I'd still gain the same amount of life, but I get to put 2 1/1 counters on each creature I control. Bogarden Hellkite, when he enters the battlefield, I deal 5. With this, I get to deal 10. Kaalia, I get to put down 2 creatures. With Aurelia, I get to have 2 extra combat phases, and I did check the ruling on that. When you stack up extra turns or combat phases, they stack up like counters. You don't have 2 instances of an extra combat phase, you have 2 extra combat phases. So this card gets ridiculous really fast. It's not good on Hellkite Charger because then you have to pay 14, you have to pay the 7 twice, but on Aurelia it is ridiculous. Chromatic Lantern for mana fixing. I've never had a problem with getting enough mana, just getting the right mana when it comes to dropping, getting Kaalia out. I would always end up with more than one of a certain color and not one of another color. So Chromatic Lantern helped me out getting Kaalia out on turn 4. Whip of Erebos. This is great because all my creatures have lifelink. So we get to gain as much life as we dish out, and that puts us way ahead of the pack, especially in multiplayer. 2 and 2 black, tap it, and you get to bring a creature back to the battlefield for a turn from your graveyard, and it gets exiled if it dies or at the end step. It's great for bringing back Aurelia, Gisela, those power cards that we need to really seal the deal on a game. Next we have Hero's Podium. All my legendary creatures get +1/+1 for each other legendary creature I control. So say I have 5 legendary creatures out, they're all getting +4/+4, and that's really neat. Its other ability is X, tap it, search the top, look at the top X cards of my library, choose a legendary creature from among them and put it in my hand, put the rest on the bottom of my library. Now I only have 12, if I remember right, legendary creatures in my library, which isn't a lot. But they're usually what win me the games, so I need to feed through my deck really fast with this card to get those legendary creatures and win. I have my 2 pairs of boots, Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot boots. I would argue that one's better than the other, but not really. 2-drop, this is a 2-drop and 0 to equip, Haste and Shroud. This is a 2-drop, 1 to equip, Haste and Hexproof. I would honestly rather target one of my creatures with something, and that's actually going to be the next card we talk about, than not being able to target it with Shroud, but they both work for what I need them to do. The card I'm talking about is Gift of Immortality. This says when the enchanted creature dies, bring it back to the battlefield, then at the end step, reattach Gift of Immortality to it. I found a really funny combo to do with this. If you have a sack engine and a creature that has enter the battlefield effect, you can equip this to the creature that enters the battlefield, sack it, it comes back, you get the effect, then the end step, this goes back on it. So I actually did it with my Apparent Overlord, and because he says at the beginning of your upkeep you sack a creature, not another creature, but a creature. So I sacked him and kept bringing him back and back and back and got more Harpy tokens. Now this only happens every turn. You can't just keep going on it because this comes back at the end step. If your creature dies after it's died the first time, it's dead for good. But you can use this on any other enter the battlefield creature. You just equip this, use a sacrifice engine, whether it be Apparent Overlord or something else, and keep sacking your creature and bringing it back to keep getting the same effect over and over again. Next we have our instants and sorceries to finish up the deck. We have Diabolic Tutor, search for a card. Increasing Ambition lets you search for a card, put it in your hand, and if you flash it back for 8, you get 2 cards. Really good. Read the Bones, you scry 2, draw 2, then lose 2 life. Grim Return, for 3 at instant speed, you get to bring back a creature card to the battlefield that was put in the graveyard this turn. That can be your opponent's or yours, so you can steal dudes or keep your winning card, your winning creature on the battlefield, though they try and kill it. Next we have Defy Death. Bring creature back to the battlefield from the graveyard. If it's an angel, it gets 2/1 counters. This is really good because I think 50% of my creatures are angels. Miraculous Recovery, reanimate a creature, and it gets a 1/1 counter. Rise from the Grave, reanimate a creature, and it becomes a black zombie in addition to its other types. This is good, especially since I see a lot of Doom Blades. So making a creature black that's not normally black, it's fun for me. We have Path to Exile. This is a must-have. 1 to exile a creature, and they get a basic land. It's a really good commander eraser. Next we have Unmake, exile target creature. Another good way to get rid of commanders, especially indestructible ones like Avacyn. Orzhov Charm, I do not use this for its last ability, because its last ability is bring a creature back with converted mana cost 1 or less. We don't have any of those unless we want to bring back a dragon token that we have. You have a very limited time to respond to that though, because as soon as your dragon hits the graveyard, you have a response phase and then it fizzles. So you have to be like, hey, I'm gonna bring that dragon back to the battlefield. It's kind of iffy. I don't really ever use it. Its other abilities are return a creature and all ores attached to it to your hand. This is good for doubling up on enter the battlefield effects. And it's also good for bringing back something that might get exiled that has Gift of Immortality on it. We don't want that to get exiled, so we're going to bounce it back to our hand with Gift of Immortality and make them waste an exile spell. Its other effect is I can destroy a creature and lose life equal to its toughness. I'm not really worried about that because we're in Commander. You know, the most I would want to lose from that is 7, but you know, you get rid of their small toughness commander for really cheap. And we're going to be gaining life anyway, so it doesn't really matter to us. Boros Charm, another instance of making stuff indestructible. 4 to their face, all your permanents are indestructible this turn, or a creature gains double strike. Now that can be really mean, especially if you swing a heavy exalted person at them and they don't block it, you double strike it, give it double strike, and it gets really mean. I usually put this on my Gisela because she doubles stuff anyway, so she goes from swinging 5 to swinging 20. Rakdos Charm. Exile person's graveyard, destroy an artifact, or each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. I don't usually use the 1 damage to the controller per creature because I usually have a lot of creatures out. Unless they match me in the amount of creatures they have out, I don't use it. It's good for destroying pesky artifact combos and for exiling reanimator graveyards. We have Terminate, destroy target creature, it can't be regenerated. Pretty straightforward. Dreadbore, destroy target creature or planeswalker. This is really good. I run into a lot of cameos that just get to bring back the spells they just cast, and they go infinite rewind cameo. They counter everything that I play. So getting rid of her before that emblem goes off is crucial. Hero's Downfall, same thing, but instant speed, and it costs 1 and 2 black. Card specifically made for Commander. Hero's Demise, destroy target legendary creature. Mortify, destroy target creature or enchantment. Shattering Blow, exile target artifact, really good for Darksteel decks or getting rid of things that try and bring back artifacts. And then wear and tear, destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment. That's 3 mana to get rid of an enchantment and an artifact. Pretty good. Mostly 1 white to destroy target enchantment, because enchantments in EDH are really, really pesky and get in your way and screw up your combos. Well, the sun has almost completely set during this video, so this is actually getting pretty dark, but quick land thing. I just have dual lands, shock lands, guild gates, check lands. I don't have any fetch lands. I'm not that rich yet. Actually, 9 of those creatures that you saw were 8 of those creatures that you saw were proxies. Iona, Balefire Dragon, Null Spine, Chancellor of the Annex, pretty much the good ones. But yeah, it's a great deck to make. It takes a bit of money. The only reason I have the cards that I have is because I got Abrupt Decays when they were $6, and I traded them to somebody when they were $20 a piece. So I got $80 worth of Angels, Dragons, and Demons from someone. He refused to give me his Iona, which is the one I wanted the most. But if you can get this deck, it runs really well and is ridiculous. Like I said, people will call you the guy for running the deck, or the girl. I don't want to be sexist. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this. I hope this helps you out. If you have any critiques or comments, suggestions, put them in the comments for me. I'd love to see them. Once again, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.